Hello and welcome to the O3 Dropcast, where we cover the offbeat, off-meta legends of the Armory. Ooh, baby, I compare you to a kiss from a rose. Edda? On the gray? I did my best, and I'm Craig, aka Poopy, and I'm here with my two lovely co-hosts. Let's start with Brice. Hey, Brice, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I thought we said we can't make Chris laugh though, and that was just too funny of an intro.
Thank you. Well, you know, Brice, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels. Let's say hello to our other co-host, Chris, aka Smithel. How you doing?
Good. I'm Chris, and I have pneumonia, so I'm going to be very, very familiar with my mute button today. So I guarantee at least one time Craig will yell at me saying, "Chris, you are talking, but we cannot hear you," because I will forget to unmute. So I will do my best not to cough directly into the mic.
You have the same mic as me. Just look for the little light.
You know, that's a very easy thing to say, but then I keep forgetting to actually look, and I just go,
"Easy for you to say."
For like 10 minutes.
I have pneumonia. No, that's a very real sickness, and I'm sorry to hear that. But I will enjoy the moments of silence we get from you. It's my favorite contribution you make to the show.
You know, one of us has to carry that, burden of being.
We should say to any
quiet.
listeners who haven't been around the Green Tree Flesh and Blood scene, this is what affection looks like for us. We are a toxic group of broken men. That's not true. We're very nice. Come say hi to us at an event.
None of that is true.
But you know who is a toxic and broken man, but maybe not a man? Let's say they are toxic and broken. Yes, it's Florian. Yeah. Rotwood Harbinger. That's right. In this episode, we're going to talk about the new Rosetta heroes, and we're going to start off with Florian Rotwood Harbinger, or actually Harbinger. And this is the Earth hero Runeblade. Technically, it's an elemental Runeblade hero with the essence of Earth. If there are 8 or more Earth cards in your banish zone, Florian gets, if you would create 1 or more aura tokens, instead create that many +1 of each of those tokens. This is my favorite hero that they announced, I think. And I am going to kick it over to you guys to see how you feel about it. But first, the reason why this is my favorite hero is I have wanted to like Viserai, but Viserai has this really annoying thing where you have to have multiple cards that you can play in order for Viserai's hero ability to take effect. You can't just play read the runes and get a 4th card. You have to play something else in order to do that. And Florian gets around that in a way that seems very rewarding, but also equally, you have to jump through some hoops. And this deck just screams to me Looming Doom. I've put together a build that I'm looking at, and I think this might be the first time since I got into the game that a Runeblade other than Vincent has really stood out to me, which is exciting because if you've played a lot of Vincent, you'll know that Vincent's a little hurting. Vincent's hurting. And I think that even just seeing Florian, if we do get some generic Runeblade cards, I think Vincent might also be in a good place. So I know you two are both more excited for other heroes, but how do you feel about Florian?
So Florian, to me, I mean, in terms of the Runeblades, I'm more interested, I think, in Florian than Aurora. So initially when Aurora was kind of, shown, and we didn't know too much about the cards or the sets or what's going on, Aurora stood out to me. I mean, I like the art style. I liked, the idea that, you could basically keep making tokens. So it felt like it's very just go fast. But the more that I see Florian and the more that I see Verdance, I think I'm starting to kind of just fall more on the Earth side of this set. The one thing that I think is super interesting and intriguing to me about both Florian and Verdance being the Earth heroes is they both have the condition of needing to have 8 Earth cards in their Banish Zone before their hero power turns on, whereas the Lightning heroes don't have that. So to me, that's like an exciting balancing act or like a puzzle to solve with these two heroes that the other ones don't have. Is like, how can I quickly fill this Banish Zone so Florian gets turned on? And how do I keep myself alive long enough that somebody doesn't just wreck me? Because if you're just doing one a turn, you may be done. Like, you may never see your hero ability. However, if like you can just sit there and build your deck and find these ways to do that, that'll be super cool. And so that's, I think, the part of Florian that interests me is like the puzzle piece of almost like Teglavossin or somebody of like, there's going to be a pre-8 Banished Zone Florian, and then there's going to be a post-8 Florian. And does the game plan switch at that post-8 point? Is it going to be defensive and slow at the beginning, and then you're just going to start trying to be like, rune chant, and then go? Or what that's going to look like. So I think that puzzle of him is very, very intriguing.
Yeah, there's like the ability is a little better than I even originally thought. And correct me if I'm wrong, which I probably am, because the way I'm reading it, if you would create one or more aura tokens, instead create that many +1 of each of those tokens. So does that mean if you're going to create 3 rune chants on a turn, you're creating 6 instead? Does each one count as an of each of these tokens? Like, is that of each instance?
No, so it would have to be 3 individual instances of one to get 6.
And there is a card that does that. It's the Florian Specialization
that
Terminate.
Says create a.
It says repeat this process X times. So in that case, you're making 1 rune chant, then 1 rune chant, then 1 rune chant. If Florian's turned on, that's 2, 2, and 2. But if you play something like Read the Runes, you would just make 4 rune chants instead of 3.
Yeah. So I think the question kind of becomes is because, like you said, there's like a pre your hero is turned on and a after your hero ability is turned on. But it seems like you still have a little bit, if the idea is to build up kind of like with this, at least the certain way of it, if the idea is to build up a big pile of 40 rune chants and then just blow them up all in one go, there's still going to be a bit of a ramp up time, because you got to spend a couple turns to get those 8 cards in your Banish Zone, and then you got to spend time ramping up your nuke, basically. Even though it's going to be easier to do with that ability turned on, unless there are more instances of unless there are more cards that work around a like create a rune chant period, create a rune chant period, create a rune chant period. It still seems like there's a little bit of a ramp up time, but also like maybe that's not how you're supposed to play it. Maybe you just get faster once you get.
I don't think
cards.
We'll see more cards that create rune chants as separate instances. But what I do think is we'll start to see attack action cards that have an activated ability of create a rune chant. I think that'll be a little bit more common. But I doubt that they'll start doing that sort of, because I think that might get out of control pretty quickly. One of the things that I think with this list is I want to make rune chants pretty regularly, and in the early turns, slap down Looming Dooms and just get double damage out of them. And then by the mid game, have my hero ability turn on so that I can just race sort of to the end of the game. Not race, not like an aggro deck, but if I'm throwing, like, one of the cards that I'm really interested in, I think, is Runic Reclamation, which is the 7 power Rune Blade attack. And if it hits, destroy an aura your opponent controls. So just being able to throw something like that with a few rune blades behind, rune chants behind it every couple turns in that mid game. And when you do have an effect that makes, honestly, even if it's just having Arknight Grasp or Grasp of the Arknight, just pitching and making 2, that's, I see a lot of value in that. And I'm really excited about playing a deck that slows down the tempo of our current meta. And before we go on to Aurora, I want to mention Brian Gottlieb posted on Twitter the other day about Pro Tour and the meta. I didn't read it too thoroughly. I was doing other things at the time. I was driving and I was reading a Brian Gottlieb tweet. I'm sorry. I'll do better. But
Don't Gottlieb and drive.
That's a safety moment. That's a safety moment.
I did see this tweet, and
OSHA
one of the
reportable.
things he said was it was just a few months ago that people were complaining about Flesh and Blood being too like math oriented, and a few months before that, people were complaining about the powering down of Flesh and Blood, and right now people are complaining about the speed and the power. And I think that everything I'm seeing from the Earth cards here tells me that between this and Assassins, where they're at right now, I think we are seeing enough to maybe curb that hyper aggro Zen meta. He very likely could be the best deck in the format still, and we do have these lightning heroes that maybe also play on that very aggressive axis. But I feel pretty. I feel like I'm in good hands when I look at these Earth cards for what their vision is, because they don't. It doesn't feel like it's going to be too fast.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the thing that's kind of neat about this too, and we keep talking the rune chain aspect of Florian and being able to create one of those, but it also would apply to things like embodiment
Yeah,
of Earth,
and gain
where you get
life.
the double embodiment of Earth.
Yep.
So it's one of those things of basically saying like all of a sudden all your 2-block non-attacks are suddenly blocking for force. You know what I mean? Like that, like it. The exciting thing part to me is the hero when you look at it. It reads that you can build it in multiple different ways. Like, do you sit there and want to be more fatiguey and defensive and focus on kind of just multiple embodiment of Earth, slowing it down, just chipping in damage here and there where you can? Do you want to just go fast and just, duplicate as many rune chants as possible? I'm hoping that's the case, because I think that's kind of the exciting thing about the game is like using Bolton as an example of back in the day when a Bolton sat down across from you. You didn't know if it was Combo Bolton, Raiden Bolton, Big Axe Bolton, so you kind of had to prepare for everything. Same with Dash. So I'm hoping that these heroes all kind of have a similar feel where it could be, I got to take a guess. It could be one of two different things. What do I think I'm going to face? And then make that game plan and go.
I know we've I'm pretty sure I brought it up before, but it's funny to see something that looks like a hero that's going to be super flexible. And like you said, like be able to build it in different ways and like have different game plans for it, while also only being a single element, right? Because like that was sort of the one kind of letdown with Tales of Aria. It's still my favorite set. Tales is, funny enough, still probably my favorite set that I've played. But it was the like rock paper scissors idea where you can like go like you had the two different fusions to run, two different elements, but everybody just like built the same deck anyway. You know what I mean? Like Oldham was one of the few that actually really played both cards, right? Because you needed both. Played both elements because you needed both of them for the attack reactive. But like everybody just played Ice Lexi. Nobody played Lightning Lexi. It felt like it kind of went as the meta matured and stuff. Everybody just kind of realized we just switched to Ice Lexi, and like the whole Lightning thing. You maybe see Voltaire every now and then, but it's like, how did this set manage to create heroes that have a build diversity, such a strong build diversity, when Tales of Aria like really couldn't, even though that was kind of the entire point of it. So looking forward to that. Honestly, more of a Aurora fan.
Well, let's talk
so
about
far.
that. Aurora, the hero that's got to go fast. The shooting star. This is the lightning hero, and maybe let's just briefly touch on the rest of the heroes, because I don't want to get too far into the episode without talking about our first strike decks. So Aurora, this is a hero that I think is great for new players. It is going to be one of the first strike decks. I'm a little bit less interested in this. Its hero ability is paying 2 resources and creating a embodiment of lightning only if you've played a lightning card this turn. and this hero, from what we're seeing, seems to be stacking damage on top of on hits with a lot of go again. Kind of reminds me of Dio in that respect. Kind of reminds me of like having a boom grenade backed behind your attacks. So, how are you guys feeling about Aurora? Brice, I know this is the hero that's most
I want to
exciting
play
to you.
Aurora. Yeah. I do enjoy aggro. I'm definitely not like an aggro naysayer. I just don't like ninjas. And when I say I don't like ninjas, I mean purely from a thematic and aesthetic kind of idea in the game. I never really like anytime I would play a ninja, I'd look at it and be like, this is kind of boring. Like you're able to go like 6 cards wide, but I'm still bored for some reason because I just don't find ninjas and that archetype appealing. I love this though. It's vibe. I love Tales. This art style, the Tales of Aria art, the art that we're getting in here, all the elemental stuff. It's bright. It's art that has like a dynamic to it. You know what I mean? Like we actually talked about that once with the young hero art for Enigma, where like all of the art has been very, very static, but now we're seeing like movement in the art. You know what I mean? To kind of have that. And it seems more fun. It just seems like you're playing aggro, but it's more fun and enjoyable to me personally and that's that's my opinion,
we
man.
appreciate you for being brave enough to be on the show and to
be
continue
wrong.
to be wrong about ninjas. Yeah. To share your horrible misinformation about the best class in the game. But yeah, okay, so it's more appealing to you. How does the Lightning Wizard play into that then? If you're looking for that quicker style, do you feel like you have enough information about Acilio yet?
No, I don't think anybody does. That's like, it's weird to look at the weapon and look at the hero ability and try to figure like, okay, so the interaction here is gonna be in the cards. Like there's going to be some specialization that says like your oh, what was it? I saw somebody just tweeted where like discard an instant, draw a card, and then what is the interaction?
Discard an
Where's the
instant,
weapon? I
draw a
gotta find the
card,
weapon. I'm
and
like scrolling for it.
the Volzer, the lightning rod, has if you control an aura permanent with sigil in its name, this costs 1 less to activate, and then amp X, where X is the number of lightning cards you've played this turn.
Okay. Then would that be a thing like specialization that says any card with aura in its or any? No, that wouldn't really.
Here's an example.
I'm not sure what I'm getting at with that train of thought.
Example of
but yeah,
an
go
aura
ahead.
that doesn't have sigil in its name that I think will obviously be a key part of Acilio's plan, which is Channel the Lightning Valley or Channel Lightning Valley. The first time you deal damage to an opposing hero each turn, draw a card. It's also a instant aura. This is one of the cards that has channel, so you have to have lightning cards in your pitch zone. But I definitely think that is an interesting one. I'm really excited to see where Acilio goes, but I likewise don't know that we have the information we need. And I know Chris is more excited for Verdance.
Yeah.
Thorn of the Rose.
Yeah, so Verdance to me seems like she's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, whenever and Brice and I talked a little bit about this yesterday on our KO Bolton kind of thing, so I won't dive too much into repeat everything, but whenever I played a lot of Magic, I loved decks that were like deal 1, heal 1 kind of thing.
The best.
Like ping and heal, ping and heal, ping and heal. And so that whole concept around Verdance is just really, really cool to me, that I can sit there and just block with a Findell's Fighting Spirit, gain a life, deal damage to you. So, the whole concept of her of I'm keeping myself alive, but I'm doing it by dealing damage is really, really cool. So like, I'm hoping that we're going to get some really fun cards to play with that, or some really fun interactions. I'm also hoping that it gives us reasons to play cards that, otherwise we wouldn't have maybe otherwise thought of, like, what is it? Like, I think there's Healing Potion was in Everfest,
Healing Potion is the action. Or no, Healing Potion is the potion. Yeah. To gain 2.
Yeah, but it's like an action. It's not like an instant or anything like that to play it or whatever. So it's like, hey, basically, like I could still just gain life and then go, or like maybe trying to do like a sun kiss verdance or something like that.
What I was
So I
thinking
mean,
of is healing balm. Healing balm is the
yeah,
action
yeah.
version of Sigil of Solace.
So I mean, the whole concept of her, I think, is just really, really fun. The fact that she's our first 40 health wizard is really neat too, because to me, that's leading me to believe that it's going to be more of like a hybrid wizard kind of build, where it's not just all instance arcane damage kind of spells, but you're gonna have to play her very, very differently. Because I thought for sure if you're basing a hero around the idea of life gain, that you wouldn't necessarily want her to be at 40 health.
I'm
So
gonna coin a phrase here. I think she's Lifelander. That's this hero. Yeah.
Lifelander. Yeah.
Because it does seem like she's gonna be, any above rate Earth cards like Felling of the Crown, but like the Bullander approach to Icelander with healing, dealing the arcane. It seems like is gonna be, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious if they're going to give her any sort of really disruption or anything like that. I think we're going to see some more, terror from like Ciliobe kind of coming out. But I think she's just going to be almost more one of those knowledge check decks of how well do you understand value to get through my healing and survive these pings. Like, are you wasting a lot of resources trying to defend one when you'd be better just or pitch AB1 or whatever the case may be, when you would just be better to sit there and save it and threaten 7 damage on me. And similar to Florian, you got to hit that 8 card limit. Before that, you're kind of trash. So I'm really, really interested in verdance as a whole.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk a little bit more about, in addition to the heroes, what was revealed during the Pro Tour, which would be specifically, there are 2 things that I'm thinking of: the meld cards and the macro. So the macro is actually something that we kind of were pretty close to in our theorizing the other week. I believe, Chris, you were saying you wanted a Helios Meyer-esque card, a card that starts in, that you have access to. And we got that in Sanctuary of Aria, which is a Rosetta macro, which has an instant for 2 resources, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you by a source of your choice. And at the beginning of the end phase, destroy it. It is not a once per turn instant, so theoretically you can prevent half as many resources as you have in your hand. Half as much damage as you have resources in your hand.
I love
love it.
I
feel similar.
I think every set should have a card like this or Helios Meyer. Like, not necessarily always prevent 1, but something that is, if you're playing limited for this set, here's the feel for it. Like, you just get this card, on board state right at the beginning. I think it's really, really neat. I like that they did this a lot.
You're feeling similar, Brice?
Yeah, I was a big fan of Helios, and just that idea of giving you a little bit of gives you a little bit more leeway in limited formats, right? Like, you can always have a Helios available to you. If there's a card you want to pick up, if there's a card you want to run differently that you otherwise wouldn't be able to pick up, like, you got Helios to fall back on. It's fine. Lets you be a little more flexible. And I was a little surprised when they stopped doing that, right? We had a couple sets that just didn't have something like that, because from what I talked to people, the general consensus was yeah, this is cool. We love this idea of having here's a free slot that now you don't have to worry about this. Of course there were upgrades for it, but it's if you missed out on a headpiece, it's you got that to fall back on, so you don't feel as bad.
I'll play.
And then I was kind of surprised when they stopped doing it.
I'll play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, even though I do really like this. I like this design space. I hope that really, this is one that I feel like arcane sets specifically need. It's just so, you're so screwed if you don't get good equipment in an arcane set, and you can't fill a pack with equipment. You just you have to have playables. So Unless, and if you print a whole set full of prevention, like, what's that going to do to the game? My only issue with this is a hill that I'm very comfortable dying on. And it's a hill that I think I will die on.
Here we go.
Adult heroes should be tokens, not majestic rarity. And we have this taking up another token spot. Maybe the back of the card, it's just a rune chant or something, and it's not really going to be that harmful. But here is how I feel about when I open a box of Rosetta, what I want instead of a gold pack. Who cares about a gold pack? Yeah, excuse me, a little burpy. Dr. Pepper with coconut. So it's so
Back
good.
at it again.
I gotta get more, and this time it's 0 sugar. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, when I open a box, I like gold pack. It was kind of the Enigma was kind of a dud. It's just not really a hero I care about, and the Spectral Shields, to be honest, didn't look that good. And maybe in the future they do a gold pack and it does really like knock my socks off. But what I would prefer more than anything, if they want heroes to be at majestic rarity, give us a hero pack. Give us a hero pack. I mean, why do they need to be at majestic rarity? I would love if when I opened a box, I just got the heroes. And that way, when I go to a draft and people who don't buy boxes want to get into the game, it's like, here's 4 heroes. You're going to be able to play all of them. So I do like the macro. I do think it does great things for the limited environment. I do think it's disappointing to see that LSS is continuing on this trend of majestic heroes while they're committing more token slots to the game. Maybe not more slots, but anyway, that's my piece on it. Let's talk about meld cards.
You said that that's a hill that you will die on. I'm pretty sure like everybody agrees with you on
that. Yes,
that.
but we're gonna be here for a while.
That's not.
No, I didn't think it was a hot take. I know it's not a hot take. I just know that this is one that like I'm not budging. That's how I feel. I feel this way strongly. I understand that like maybe there's some financial decisions as to why I print it at adult rarity. I think it's all bullshit. Just print them at token. We want people to play the game, right? And we don't. Quite frankly, we don't want people to stop playing the game at first strike. We want them to play the game in its most competitive way. And to do that, you need adult heroes. So that's how I feel. No need to keep going on that. How do you guys feel about meld cards? Are you excited about them? Do you feel weird about them?
Love them.
Once Chris explained to me how they worked, it makes a little more sense. It honestly took me a second to realize that you do have to pay for both sides. It's not just the pay one and do both. That seemed insane, and I was like, well, okay, that makes more sense now.
You gotta pay for both sides. Your hero, both sides have to be legal for your hero for it to go in the deck. So you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna put the Comet Storm / Shock one into Kano because it's a wizard action. No, there's a lightning part on it too. The other part that is really, really cool is you have to also respect the type of each side. So like if you want to play that Comet Storm / Shock on your opponent's turn, you can't because you can but only play the shock part. You can't play the Comet Storm part because it's an action. So unless you have like Storm Striders or another way to do that. So I mean, it leaves a lot of decision making into it of saying, how often am I going to be able to do or like want to do both of these? Like Comet Storm 5 for 2 is an action. It's great for a wizard. You know what I mean? But are you going to be able to do, 5 or 6 damage for 4? How often are you going to want to do that? Probably almost never. You know what I mean? So I think that they add a lot of creativity or options to the game. I know it is going to suck personally for me because there'll be a million times, I'm sitting there doing like this whole thing where like I have my card and then I just go, wait, hold on, what is this again? And flipping it sideways as I'm trying to read it, so my opponent will know. Oh wait, he has one of these
That's why
meld
you
cards
always
in hand.
Well, he has
hold
one of
your
those,
cards
yeah.
sideways. If you always hold them
So-
sideways, you'll be fine.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll have to get out of that habit, but no, I think it's a really cool idea. You know,
I'm curious if there's going to be any more of them, because right now because what seemed to notice was
There's
the
no common.
rarity is tied to there's
Mhm.
no common. Okay. So the rarity seems to be tied to the left-hand card, to the card on the left. So Null and Thistlebloom are majestic, but then you can get Null Shock, Null Life. And then Comet Storm is Comet Storm Shock, Comet Storm Life. Presumably. There hasn't like an image of that hasn't come up yet.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Never noticed that.
So yeah, Null Shock is majestic rarity. Comet Storm Shock is rare. And then same thing, Thistlebloom Life is
feel
majestic,
so
but
dumb.
Pulsing Aether Life
I
is
never
rare.
noticed
It
that
almost
the
looks like-
right side is repeated. That's
yeah. So it almost looks like
There's only Shock and Life so
Yeah.
far for the right side. The only thing we've seen is Shock and Life. And then they're going to say like, there's a pool of left sides, there's a pool of right sides. Let's create every possible combination with them, which right now is only
Is
six.
that did they
Six
confirm
possible combinations?
that they're going to do combinations of?
Mm.
Okay.
I don't
Well, I
think,
mean that just from the previews, because like I'm looking right here. There's Thistlebloom and Life, and then Pulsing
Right,
Aether and
but
Life,
we haven't
and then Null
haven't
Shock.
heard like, since we don't know a second. Also interesting. Sorry, had to point this out because I just saw it. It means that Shock has different costs, and it also has different pitch values. So it
Yes.
seems like
Yep.
they're not, what they're not doing, though, from my understanding, or at least we don't know, is it's not like if there was a second lightning one, we're not getting each of these in every combination.
yeah,
We don't
yeah.
know
And it
that
seems like
yet.
And it seems like the left side of the card is the key side, because like you said, Shock has technically different costs and pitch values, but the damage doesn't
Yeah.
change. Like, so you see the red on the Comet Storm, it's still
that's
one
true.
damage, but the yellow on the Null side is still one damage.
Yeah, Burn Up and Shock is 0 for 1 arcane. Null and Shock
Mhm.
is 1 for 1
So
arcane.
it seems like the Life, the Shock, sides of things. It's like that's like the bonus. Like, hey, if you have the resources, here's a nice little bonus.
Wow.
But the key part that you're playing is that left
That-
side. So you got to look at it and saying like, hey, how do I play this to the best of my ability, and then what resources do I have left to get the right side?
That took
benefit
me
as well,
from
if I
liking
want
it to loving it. I love this. Like, I think this is such
it's a
cool,
very cool system.
This is so
yeah.
cool. So that's how I feel about it. You guys want to go and talk a little bit about first strike decks, because I think we have a bit to say about these. I think it might need a little bit of time. So I'm going to just briefly introduce first strike decks here as LSS's way of getting new players who have never played the game of Flesh and Blood into the game in the most affordable, most accessible way possible, and to give store owners the easiest onboarding ramp possible to point to and say, this is what you should be getting in, this is what you should be buying if you've never played the game before. And from that point of view, I think these are okay. I think they are fine for teaching players to play the game. My concern is I think they have very little replayability, no value, and I don't see how you would not just be better served with an Aurora Blitz deck. Having not seen the Aurora Blitz deck, I don't see how it could possibly be better to start with this. And I think that my concern is that they want it to be so simple and dumbed down for players to understand the very basic mechanics of the game that they stripped from it a little bit of the enjoyment. I think it's just too straightforward, very beginner basics.
Yeah,
This could have been a new Ira deck.
Yeah, I think you're kinder on this than I would be. I mean, the fact that this is a product that is meant to be sold to get people into the game, I think is a crime based on what these cards are. You know, I would, there would be zero instance I would pick up either of these decks to try to teach somebody it, especially if I'm saying you're paying money for it, as opposed to saying, let's go pick up the Kasai Heavy Hitters Blitz deck and learn that. Like, it has a nice little card in it that says, here's how you play the hero, here's the difficulty. You know, it has a couple little collectibles with the extended art cards and things like that in it.
But it runs
that
Iron
you
Rod.
as a player could do it.
like
well, this does not.
No,
not
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
yeah, sorry, yeah, you're talking about Kasai.
I mean,
yeah,
it is
not good.
Yeah, I mean, this is a product that should be given away for free, just like the Ira deck was, to people interested in it. Basically saying, here's Aura. If you like it and you think the game is fun, Rosetta's coming out, or at that point, Rosetta is already out. Go ahead, dig through the ball. You know, let's help expand upon this. That's great. Or, hey, you really like Terra? Let's go dig through the Aria bulk and maybe sit there and put together something so you could build out a Blitz deck with Earth Warriors.
Right, but Chris, they have said specifically that this isn't for enfranchised players. It is for those new players that you're talking about. So when you say that
and that's what I mean.
You don't think it should have a price associated with it, I kind of push back a little and say game stores shouldn't just be giving out free product. LSS can't just give out free product necessarily to get new players at the point that the game is right now. And I think that as far as I 100% hear what you're saying about growing your collections and you want to have good cards when you start. This is not that, but don't you think does it achieve the goal of being the simplest answer for a new player?
Yeah.
You're not feeling it.
Yeah, I mean, I see zero good with these decks, and I'm hoping I'm terribly wrong. I'm hoping this, like, at Gen Con, these kick off and everybody's like, oh my god, this game's great and I can't wait to get it and I'm glad I paid for it. And we see an influx of new players from these decks. But personally, if I was teaching somebody the game and I wanted them to have something to walk away with and they were spending money on, I would recommend almost any other Blitz Precon deck to either of these two decks for a new player.
I will say that looking at the Aurora deck right now, all of your cards do like three things. They give an attack a buff, they give an attack go again, or they make an on hit, deal arcane damage, and that's like it. And that to me is just I don't think you'll captivate new players this way. I and I do hear what you're saying. Like, because I'm going back and forth. I tried to push back, but yeah, no, I would not want to pay for this. I would want this for free.
So those are like, I'm kind of in the middle. When we started, I was like, no, like, these things are dumb. I'm going to rip into these things and tell everybody that this is like the dumbest thing LSS has ever done. And it's honestly, like, when you think about making the argument of these should just be the new Ira deck, like these should just be sent to stores and given to players for free. The Ira decks were sent to stores and given away to players for free because the game was very new.
The game
right?
didn't exist.
The game didn't exist.
Was the Ira deck.
That is an upfront cost that LSS was willing to shoulder because it helped market the game, and it was at the time the game. That was like give these to people. We're going to start printing WTR Alpha, and that's just what you do when you're trying to build hype around a new game. And I've talked about like non-TCG players about this before, but the whole idea of like how eventually we fell out of that cycle of cold foils in first edition, cold foils in limited, RFs and unlimited. They don't like, to me, the reason they did that, to me, the reason TCGs do that when they're with their alpha sets is because you want to incentivize players to buy up front. And best case scenario, you get a bunch of people buying it. Now you have more money to go to the printers again and all that stuff. Worst case scenario, everybody buys boxes. Nobody likes the game. So at least you broke even on your initial investment. Part of that initial investment for LSS was printing all of those Ira decks to get people involved. Now that's not the point. Like, the people are going to see it and there's going to be all this product available and they're going to say, oh, you're just starting. We don't have anything to just give away to you anymore because that's not the business model anymore. But these decks are very cheap. You can buy them. You can learn how to play. And the thing that kind of tips the scales for me on these decks is that there's nothing in these decks that there's no EA promos. There's no cards you can only get in these decks other than some of the stuff that Terra runs because there is no, right? He is a hero outside of the normal Rosetta cycle.
Terra's the only one that has a Majestic in it. It has.
I was about to say that he's got a Majestic.
Yeah, but like whatever.
It is a big
like
whatever.
Like what else are you gonna like? There's no like. I guess TLDR. The whole reason I'm okay with this is because there is no reason for established players to buy these decks. They're not pulling they're not dangling a carrot over your head because there's some very cool promo that you can only get in these, like how all the Blitz decks have the EAs and stuff like that. There's just, if it's not something that you need, you can just comfortably ignore it and never think about it again. It's just
I want to offer one thing for obviously it's not for collectors. I want to answer the question of who it's for. I want to try and pitch you on the demographic. Do you think this is for children ages 10 to 13?
Is that even within the age rating of the game itself?
I thought the game is rated a little. You gotta be older. But if you were, do you think this is that, when you look at it, is that what you see? Because that's what I see.
It's very a lot of the decks are very simple. They're very like they teach you about conditional triggers and things that are, if you've played you may blah blah blah. But they're very straightforward. They don't take a lot of time to learn and pick up, and I don't think that has anything to do with the age range of the player. I think that has to do with the tenure of the player. Like, a brand new player is going to appreciate something simple to learn the basics of the game.
That's true. I just tend to think of, when I think of like a brand new player, I want to think about like my friends who got into Magic when they were in elementary school. This is to me a product for elementary schoolers, and I don't mean to say that in a negative way. That's a needed product. Frankly, even if the game says you got to be older than that, I don't give a shit. I don't freaking care about none of that, dude. Whatever.
I got CDs with parental advisories on them when I was in middle school. So
guess what? I listened to AC/DC in the 4th grade. I don't give a frick, dude. I'm crazy like that. No, but yeah, I mean, like, I think that we want this game to be played by the younger generation because that helps it grow. I like just a bunch of 30-year-old guys playing this game. It's fun. I like hanging out with people, but like, I think in order for the game to grow, there also has to be a younger demographic getting into it so that when our age group starts to age out of it, people are coming in. So I think that's sort of where I see this product. But we are talking about new players getting into the game. There's 2 more things we have to talk about today. One being, we have more Armory decks on the way. 4 more Armory decks are slated to come out. We do not know the heroes. We do know that one of those decks this year will introduce a new adult hero to the game. That's what I want to get to second. What I want to get to first, Mastery Pack Guardian. This to me, when we talk about getting into the game and people who are would-be collectors or would-be competitors, this to me has the promise of being their best product for those people yet, but it is also very circumstantial to what you like to play. If you don't like Guardian, you're probably going to feel like you did during Bright Lights if you don't like Mac.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
cautiously optimistic for these mastery sets. Like I it feels weird, like a weird idea, but I get why they're doing it. I get what they're targeting and who they're targeting for it. I'm hoping it works. I'd rather have something like this than have them do a draft set than a non-draft set, than a draft set than a non-draft set. So if they do something like this where it's like, hey, look, a couple times a year we're gonna throw out something for people that just love Guardian, people that love Warrior, or something like that. Cool, sweet. I'm all for that. I'd rather do that than give up a set.
That's like, I always kind of talked about it with like, man, I really hope Flesh and Blood doesn't start releasing as many sets as Magic does in a year, because that it gets to a point where, like, I mean, there's a reason I didn't start playing Magic again. It's very far gone to me as far as like keeping up with product releases and all that kind of stuff. But this is something that most, and as I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, this is a really bad thing to say about a product, but this is a product that a majority of people might not even want to buy. So like, if you're going to have sort of a mainline release cycle of actual draftable sets, and then below that you kind of have a separate cycle of, we're also going to release these new, the new supplementals basically. I don't think that's like a problem. You know what I mean? Like, because on one hand, it's like, wow, I really hope they don't just like start churning out sets where it becomes impossible to keep up with. But if those extra sets are, those out of band sets are going to be like just supplementals, that makes sense, because if you don't like Guardian, you don't have to dive into that product. It doesn't become a financial burden, or it doesn't become a keeping track with. I guess the thing that I'm not sure of is, did they say how many of those are going to be like
they did
old cards?
Well, they said no. They didn't say how many. They said a majority will be new cards. I did a little video breaking down.
A majority will be new cards. Great.
What I think could be possible. It's not a very accurate video, obviously. Like, we'll find out more information, but there are a couple things we know. I will want to make a point here, because I think we're talking a little bit, this keeping up with the Joneses, that's more for players who are established. For new players, one of the things that's coming back is crack shuffle play. So that is for everyone. That's for the people, right? I love crack shuffle play. I'm happy that it's returning.
It's fun.
And I'm happy that it's returning outside of a draft set. Now, this set is going to have new cards and returning cards. It will also have some cards that are playable outside of Guardian. My hope is that just means generic. Don't put a ninja card in there. That to me is like, it's smart.
It's the expansion slot. No, it's a waste.
Like stuff, but it's anti-consumer, in my opinion. But it makes business sense to drive sales of it. Now, I think that this is another product that I think, I mean, they were very clear of like, what they want is to have a product that that retailers can just point and say, did you like heavy hitters? What'd you like about it? Oh, you like Victor? Buy this product next. This is where you go next. And I think that's awesome. And then as far,
I'm concerned about their ability to like keep pumping them out for new classes though. Because like you kind of touched on that at the beginning. It's like, well, what if you don't like Guardian? And then they're going to say, well, the next 3 mastery packs we're going to do are Guardian, Warrior, Ninja. And you're like, but I like Rune Blades.
Yes,
I don't like
but don't you think that a Rune Blade one was needed? Like, if you're a Rune Blade player today and you don't know that Rosetta's coming out next month, and they say, we have Mastery Pack Rune Blade coming out next month, don't you just lose your shit? Like, I mean, because it's needed.
Oh, yeah.
Necessary.
Yeah, but I mean, but I mean, that's like, what if Rune Blade isn't coming until like the 5th one they do? Rune Blade players are going to feel a little bummed out that like, we're waiting for a Runeblade Mastery pack, but we've gotten Guardian, Warrior, Ninja, Mech.
The
Like, when is
timing
my
is gonna
Runeblade
be
coming? It's all
controversial no matter what they do.
it all depends on it all depends on what kind of cadence they can get with like releasing these, and if they're we can't be like we want a new one every month because that's just not
that
doable.
and that and also what other sets are coming out around that time. So basically, the way I'm kind of reading the Guardian, Mastery set
Okay,
is
that's
also
true.
saying like, okay, I'm not expecting a ton of Guardian stuff around that.
You know what
period.
what
I mean?
I'm expecting there? I have
That's
I
a
have
good
a
point.
theory.
Yeah.
That's where we get Necromancer and possibly second Dromai, because that's where the allies are going to be. Like, what Guardians have a really tough time against ally matchups. That's, I mean, I don't know if that's true. I don't play Guardian. I think that's true.
Yeah.
But I am theorizing that
It's
they
difficult.
are conscious of the meta implications of adding these cards in at that time, and they're looking at what is surrounding it as far as draftable sets releasing. If that's correct, my gut feeling is that they are going to release it around the time as a new ally based class.
Yeah, I didn't really think so if the draftable set in that same, the draftable set in Q1 2025 has classes ABC, just make a new one that has a different, you know what I mean? Keep them kind of phased with the releases of the draftable sets, and then you're just like, no, we don't, it would be like if they did a wizard one at the same time Rosetta was coming out. It's like, that's no, we're getting wizard cards. We don't need more wizard cards. We're getting them.
Hey, Rangers really need help in this matchup.
Yeah,
like I think they're fine, but
you think they got a bunch of cards designed and just like ready to go and like treat these as like a meta balancing set?
Thousands and thousands of cards designed ready to go. Like that. Chris,
you're
muted.
Yeah. Oh, it happened.
I believe it. That's what I was saying. Is I believe
put
it.
put a counter up in the top of the screen for how many times it's only one
exactly.
so far, so
I don't remember who said it or where they said it. That they have many cards that have been designed that are maybe not all of them make it through testing, and they're counting those as well. But there are plenty of cards that are ready to print from my understanding, and it does seem like some of them they're just saying, let's not wait for a draft set, we need this, like we the Guardian's gonna need this. Ooh, you know what Guardian should have if it's an ally like set that they're trying to counter?
I was gonna say Crown of Seeds back.
No. Shame on you. Be gone. No, I love you. What?
But I got an Italian one, and I really want to be able to use it. I got this after it was banned already, so it feels bad.
But I was gonna say they should have like a Rhinar Earth Shatter that's just hit the ground, hits a bunch of allies in front of you. That's what I need from that.
Yeah. Or like it's funny, is already a card called Cleave, and it doesn't have to do with a mechanical cleave.
Speaking of
like swing the axe in a big thing and hit all of the dragons at once.
Speaking of cards that are like designed that they're just sitting on, what set do you think we get the Brody Spurlock card? From the world premiere of
I forgot about that.
That was the world premiere of Heavy Hitters. They got no, it wasn't the world premiere, it was the celebration.
No, it was the one in New Zealand.
I think they got to figure out how to translate it into English first.
Make it so you don't have to spend 10 hours reading it.
Very likely a UPF.
Do we get
very likely a UPF product? Yeah.
UPF card. Yeah.
I would say, do we get it as an expansion in Rosetta? Like, is it come out the same year as the celebrational?
So we did also hear about heroes being released via Armory decks. How do the O3 drop boys feel about that? How let's come up with a decision together.
Unlike the first strike decks, I don't mind it. I think the Armory decks have been
Armory decks.
I love everything about them.
Fucking rule. They're fucking awesome. Rule.
Now,
we needed them so badly.
They seem well balanced against each other. They give you an idea of how the hero plays. and I am all for releasing a new adult hero in one. It does, because they didn't say it's a brand new hero; they just said new adult. So I'm convinced it is Benjamin Grown Ass Man
Oh,
is going to be the
no.
Armory deck where we get
because
because they did Brute, they did Ranger, they did
I was
Warrior.
gonna say it's
like
Fi.
we need a ninja.
Fi. But I mean,
Fi would make sense.
if it's Benjamin, I'll lose
he would make
my
a good.
shit. I love Benji.
If we get Benjamin Grown Ass Man, best deck
Yeah.
ever. Best like that would make me excited to play Ninja. Like being able to play adult Benji, in CC. I think that would be awesome and fun.
I think it'll be a new Fi because I do think ninjas would be great. I don't think they said it's a new class that's being introduced. I think that would be a little bit counterproductive, as it wouldn't give people any place that they could go to look for class cards. Like, I think you want the product to lead to another product. So I'm also okay with it. I think that when it comes out, I anticipate there's going to be a lot of noise about allocation, and I think that hopefully there's enough. That's like all I can do is hope that there's enough. If there's not, unfortunately, some of us might have to wait a couple months to get the hero. But it's not like
it happens, or just pay absurdly marked up prices on eBay.
But my point is, it's not like it's going to be a limited print run, and it's to the point where like, oh yeah, no, it's $300 for this hero, and we don't have plans to put them in a draft set. That's not going to happen.
See, that's why I think that's why I kind of like the idea of with the upcoming Armory decks. Like, okay, if they're going to introduce a new hero, I think that's a very good avenue to reintroduce LL heroes. Like, that's where we get a new Lexi. That's where we get a new Dromai or something like that. Because then you don't have to waste a hero slot in a draftable set to do that.
You can make heroes,
more new
so,
heroes instead.
With them doing, this is me thinking out loud, and you said, "Oh, maybe you made me think of it." We have Blitz precons. We don't have CC precons. Do we get an Armory deck that is Living Legend themed, where it's basically like, hey, look, here's the deck. This will get you started right away into Living Legend.
2 years out from that, I think, at least.
I'm not saying it's this year, but do you think that they sit there and just say the Armory deck is for Living Legend format?
I think that they are doing their first Living Legend calling in December, and they have plans to continue to support it. So the idea that one day we get that is totally foreseeable. But like I said, I don't think it's going to be in the next 2 years. And frankly, I think I'd have to see a lot more interest in Living Legend before I think that they would do that, because of just the legality. It's so much easier to print an Armory deck that is for Classic Constructed, because it can be played in Living Legend. There may be 1 or 2 cards that end up getting restricted, but for the most part, out of the box. It seems to me that it wouldn't.
You can't go the other way.
Like, I can't show up at CC and be like, oh no, but this is Armory deck Chain. You don't understand. This is Armory deck Starvo.
You don't
like,
Fair.
But if we continue to see Living Legend grow, if the community embraces it more, if it becomes a primary format, I don't see why there's a reason that they can't do that in a year or 2.
I think they want Living Legend to be the other primary format, whether or not the community embraces it. I mean, we talked about that, like, I think 2 weeks ago, where like I think the future is Living Legend and CC being the 2 banner formats. That's what all events are going to be run as, either LL or CC, and like Blitz events are going to kind of take a even more of a side street than they already have. It's just like, you have to let the pool of Living Legend grow before you can really start embracing it as a like full tournament format. And it's there now. There's enough heroes. There's enough heroes in the LL pool to make it like interesting outside of the normal CC meta.
And heroes that are available in the CC meta have different shapes in Living Legend. And I think
in Living Legend,
I think that we are definitely getting to a point where Living Legend does not feel like, why would I? There was maybe 2 of the same deck in the most recent Living Legend Battle Hardened or like whatever it was at Pro Tour. Their top 8 looked so much better than CC. CC was 3 Zen, 3 new, a Azuri, and what was the other one? Oh man,
Kano?
I don't think it was Kano.
In the Pro
Yeah.
Tour?
Wasn't it a dash?
I thought there was a.
I think-
I'm gonna have to look. I thought there was a Kano in top 8.
Why can't I
because
remember?
No one wanted to watch because the top 8 looked so boring. It was definitely Azuri because Azuri won. Was it a
Oh, man.
KO? No, it wasn't a KO. Oh my goodness.
Let me see. Top,
We're all frantically Googling. Like,
top 8.
It wasn't
Pro Tour Amsterdam,
Dash.
Lebug, Zen,
Lavaya.
New,
Lavaya.
New,
Yeah, yeah,
Azuri,
yeah,
new.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty like I look, it's not scripted.
Ethan's somewhere yelling
It's
at
not
his
scripted,
screen.
Don't forget
but
me.
that was the worst. That was the worst timeline in my opinion. Like that was that. It's nice that Azuri won, right, and that it combats like this is a horrible stale meta. But the rest of the bracket showed that it's a pretty stale and bad meta. Like it did not. As a viewer, there's nothing that could have been worse than just seeing mirror matches on one side of the bracket and mirror matches on the other side of the bracket, with 2 exceptions. It was awesome. Azuri went to the end, cool, but still, it was the least climactic Pro Tour for me, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm being critical of LSS. I think they're doing a great job handling the meta, and I think they're great stewards of the game. I think that was just an unfortunate happenstance where it was just like, this one is not the narrative that gets me riled up about Flesh and Blood.
Yeah. It's a good set. I mean, I still like Mistveil, but it's kind of boring to see the same 2.
Not wrong.
So we talked about the Mastery set. We talked about Armory decks. What say we go into standby mode for the next week and just power down and drop out? How you guys feeling? You guys ready to just kind of go back into our closet and wait until people come back?
I do have one, like, it's not really a big important thing, but is it me, or is this like the first time that spoilers have actually happened the day before
It's
we
amazing.
recorded and not the day after we recorded? How great
It's amazing.
feeling is that?
Today is Wednesday. We've been recording on Thursdays here and there, and today, like, there was like, if this came out tomorrow, it would have been like, oh, perfect, it happened again.
Absolutely infuriating, because it's happened so many times now.
I'm glad that we got to talk about these first strike decks and our love of them. And I think my final note on them is that we'll be able to judge their success by the growth we have at Armories and not how we established players feel about the decks. I think if we were to try and judge that that way, it would be judging a fish on its ability to fly.
Ask not what Armory decks could do for you.
Ask what
Somebody help me out here.
You can buy to make it playable.
You can buy to make it. Yeah, there we go.
Thanks for joining, Chris. Thanks for unmuting for that. That was such a good contribution.
In my head, I was like, I got something to say, but then I hit unmute and I was like, fuck, what the? I was like,
I love how none of us have figured out how to fucking end recordings now. We're all, every time we're just like,
I'm dying.
okay, Mel covers it up. Bye.